thing
He's
is,
back again.
if I put it on headsets, it's okay. It will, I think you will hear me well. If I go to default, it will be a problem. Should I use headsets?
Yeah, maybe try. We're live now, anyways.
Oh,
So, very good morning to you guys. It's been a lot of chaos in the studio today. We've been trying to set up in the last 1 hour or more. But, anyways, we're here. Today's topic is very important. We're talking about the four causes of migration. I don't know if anything like this exists, but it occurred to me a few days ago when I made a post on LinkedIn. I feel like over the years, in the last 11 plus years now, I have evolved and gone through different stages of migration. And then I realized that, yeah, there are different phases, but you don't know this instantly until you go through it. And I genuinely feel like if people would learn about these different phases upfront, then they're better prepared and then they can go through each of these phases accordingly, without regrets, without worries or challenges. And if whatever would come, that they know that okay, it's this phase and I'm prepared for it. So it's not like it's a thing which exists, but hopefully people get to understand it and begin to treat it this way. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. And as always, I have my co-host who's joining us from Nigeria, Michael, and then we also have our special guest speaker who's joining us from Italy this morning. Good morning, guys. Over to you, Michael.
Good morning, Mike. Yes, I
okay.
can't wait for us to swing into actions today. From Nigeria here or another parts of Africa, you would expect that once you travel to make your way to Europe, everything should just start flowing well for you. I'm also surprised to be hearing about access, arrival, adaptation, and then asset again. So I'm here to hear from you and to listen to what you've got to say, as from the horse's mouth, if I may say. Yeah.
Great, great, great. All right, Rolex, let's hear from you briefly and then we dive in. Can you hear us or you're still setting up? Yeah, if Rolex is still setting up, we can proceed. So I think what every audience who's listening to us right now or later should understand is that when you shouldn't approach migration as a simple relocation. It's really different, and I think that's the key problem which people face approaching migration as a simple relocation. No, you can relocate easily to just go do a job for a short time. You can relocate very easily to go do something, just take up a gig. But really, when it comes to migration, it's not a simple relocation, and there are different phases which people have to appreciate. The first phase is the access, and the access is how you get the information. Who are you getting this information from, and where are you coming from, and what are you going to do? There are lots of things that you have to know in this first phase. Then the other phase is the arrival. When you arrive that destination country, for most of our audience, they want to come to Germany or other parts of Europe. And there have been lots of challenges. So these first two phases are very, very important and they are critical. And I think these are the phases where people give up. Let's say, for example, you are in Nigeria and you're planning to move to Germany or some other European countries. Let's use Germany for an example. Now, the first step, which is the access, how do you get the right information, the right document, the visa application process, secure admission in a university, get a job? The process goes on and on and on and on like that. And by the way, for the sake of our audience who are joining us for the first time, if this is your first time here, this podcast is brought to you by Settling, the platform that we are building to inform and connect people about migration. You can find out more about Settling by just scanning this QR code, which you can see here right now if you haven't done that before. So you can jump right on Settling. The goal of this platform is to see that people are well informed about migration and that people can also connect with others who are in the different stages of migration and get the right information. So, but I would like to hear from you, Michael from Nigeria. Tell us so far what do you hear, and because you were just saying now that you think when people move abroad, it's done. Everything just begins to move smoothly. This is not the case. So, how
Well,
how do you perceive that exactly?
Well, I can't really hear you clearly. I can't really. There was some kind of glitch
I
with the
can say
sound.
that
So
again. How about
yeah,
now? Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. So I was saying, what is your perception about migration? What do you, when people move, as you see them move from, home abroad, what do you think? What comes to mind? You think everything is done? You think they go
You
to the
know,
places?
if you pay attention, maybe I don't know if you've seen my comment at the chat box. I was saying yes. Well, you just said something. You said migration must not be approached like just mere relocation. Migration is not relocation; is a very serious business. And then when you
Mm-hmm.
brought like this kind of structured approach now that you've brought here, it's beginning to make a lot of sense to me, and it's an eye opener if you ask me. You
Mm-hmm.
know, from access, it's not just about moving from one place to the other. It's not relocation. Migration is a serious business. You have to think
Yeah.
about the long-term sustainability and all of that. So, and I'm just knowing that it's beginning to, sometimes there are things your subconscious, but it's not really there. So it's like a
Yeah.
reawakening to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
already.
Mm. So, guys, if you're watching us, please leave a comment so we know where you're watching us from, which location, where are you interested in traveling to, and if you have any questions about moving abroad in general. Yeah, Rolex, maybe we can try this time and see if we can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now much better.
Okay.
So, go on, maybe your opening statement on this topic.
Yeah, like just like Michael said, it's an eye opener actually because it doesn't really matter if you are here in Europe or you are still back in Nigeria. You need all this information. These are all the phases that even you who is still in Nigeria trying to prepare to move, and also you who is already in Europe is also supposed to know get acquainted with so that you can know how to find your way around things. So it's an information that's very important for even those who have migrated already and those who are still planning to migrate. So it will be a wonderful show, and I hope that our listeners will learn and take something really really important back home.
Yeah. Before we proceed, maybe just very quickly, Um, though you have been living in Italy now for a while now, what do you think about these different stages in settling down in Italy? The access, the arrival, the adaptation, and then building assets. Is this something that has occurred to you before? And do you think it's something which will be applicable in Italy?
Because I am here now for a year plus, so it's really something I should be thinking about, and hopefully it will occur to me. I mean, it's something that will happen to me in the very nearest future. So assessing Europe, it's almost the same like every other country. In Italy, you know that when you gain the visa, it's a Schengen visa. You have access to about 27 other Schengen countries, and so that's a plus for whoever is moving over. And then arriving is also another thing. When you arrive, you have to arrive with like you're coming to study, you're coming for work, you have all your documents ready. You know, when you are asked to provide something, because at the immigration stage they ask you, okay, why are you here? Can you show us an evidence of why you are here? Like for me, I was asked, and then I had to provide my academic documents. I mean, what the university sends to me. So you have to provide that at the airport where you meet the immigration officers, and then you are allowed to enter in the stamp your passport that this today you entered Italy. So I think this is also a way of even letting every other country know, all the European Union countries that are linked, that these 27 countries that you can move into, they are aware that this person has entered Europe. So you now have access, even when you are applying for the visa, there's a place where they ask you, is it multiple entry or single entry? You have to click multiple entry. You have to know these things. So when you click multiple entry, it gives you access to every other Schengen countries. And then if you pick what is it called, single entry, you're only restricted to that country you are going into. So you have to be careful also when you are applying for the visa. So when you arrive, you have access to every other 27 countries. And then you are arriving here for studies, you're arriving here for work, you know that you are coming to the university, and then you have to do all your documentations, try to get your permit of stay, and then you find your way to the university and start your classes. And then you focus actually before you start thinking of settling down. You try to focus on your studies, know that you are here to study, try to get at least a good result. Be humble, go to classes, do all the assignments and everything. Focus on why you are here at first, and then, like for me, closer to when you are trying to graduate, then you start, it start coming to your mind that, oh, I'm about to graduate now. What's next? What am I supposed to do next? Am I moving away? Am I going to stay here? Am I looking for another? Because for me, I came here on scholarship, so I've been living rent free for about 2 years now. I've been living rent free. So you begin to think about it. After this 2 years contract of me living rent free, I have to start paying rent monthly, not yearly like we do in Nigeria, not yearly. So you begin to think about that. How do I start paying rent on my own monthly? I've never done this before. I've lived in Nigeria where I pay rent only once in a year. But here you have to pay monthly. That means you need a constant job. You need a job that you have to pay from. You have to eat, you have to pay these things. And then if you don't have a job, you cannot even renew your contract. I mean, your permit. Because why are you here without job, without schooling, and then you need a house contract. Then you need to show where you are living so you can even renew the permit. So these are the things that are occurring to me now, the things that I'm thinking about right now. So this is the next phase that I am now, trying to settle down where I am now.
All right, so let me say you have assessed, you have arrived, you're now adjusting, and the adjustment can become very, very comfortable, if I may say.
Very, very uncomfortable, very, very, because you have to think a lot. You have to think a lot.
Because the picnic is over.
Yeah. It's over now. The free living, the free lifestyle is over now, man. You have to start thinking of what's like, how do I take care of myself now? Because the university has done a lot, and this is what Europe give to people. They actually give you enough. They give you enough for you to be living for 2 years without rent. They also give you food. With this kind of scholarship, you are able to do a lot in 2 years. And then it's enough for you to start thinking, what's next? How can I take care of myself now? Of course, you've been teaching yourself to some extent, but this one, it's all on you right now.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
is
Michael,
really.
please. All right, Michael, if I may ask a question. Now, going by what DK is saying now, what is the best way to transition from being a student to being a permanent resident?
Yeah. Good
How
question.
do you go about it?
Yeah. But back to Rolex. Maybe the name should even change to Rolex. So because we are saying calling Rolex and there's a different name showing in the yeah, but it's all good. So I think I really like how you walked us through these different stages, with your own experience. And everyone goes through these different stages, but they simply do not realize it that, hey, I'm going through a different stage. And as I mentioned before, it's not something that I read somewhere, but it occurred to me that, hey, over time, you see yourself going through a different stage. You mentioned the initial stage, the access, and trust me, the way you explained it, I didn't even think about it before that way. But now we see it in practice, how you got your visa. And then during that point of literally the access, they're asking you, what are you coming here for? And then are you here for single entry or multiple entry? That's literally access to where do you want to go to, and that's the first stage. And again, there are lots of things here which you have to understand. And that's why I said migration is not simply relocation. No, it's deeper than that. And now you see all the different stages that you go through. Again, what you experience always depends on who you are, where you're coming from, and the purpose of where you're going to. So to answer your question about how one would go through this different stage and becoming a permanent resident, it's not like a one size fit all, right? Because you have to understand your path and then how it's going to work for you. Some people come here um, already, well, fully educated, have job experience. It's a lot easier for them, so I think they skip some of these stages, not skip in the sense that they don't go through it, but skip in the sense that it takes them shorter time because arrival wouldn't be a lot like the access is not that complicated for you. The arrival is pretty much straightforward, and then you're mostly facing the adaptation and then the asset building stage because you came here on the work visa, so to speak. And for some people, the question always is, am I coming alone or with my family? So am I relocating fully with them or it's just me? I will do this. It's a contract for a short time and I'll go back. So a permanent resident might not be applicable to you. So the bottom line is, at the end of the day, each person needs to understand what's their profile and very importantly, what's the plan for the future. And I know people don't like to hear this, but it's like everyone just want to move, just like let me move and then I'll start figuring things out as I move. I think that's very common for most Africans. But if you can set yourself apart by learning or trying to understand this, because it's it's like every other thing in life. If you see the way the Europeans do things versus how most Africans how we do things, it's very different. I give an example: football. In Africa, there are millions of talents of footballers, but they do not necessarily convert to the football business and make the money as it's made in Europe. And it's all because of the system which is applied to it. We play football back at home just for fun, to enjoy it on the street. We don't care about who is buying us, who is not buying us. Most times when I go out here, back then when I came to Germany newly, people ask me, do you know Kanu? Do you know JJ? And all those guys. But the thing is, back then, those guys growing up, they were just playing football for fun. I don't know if you guys know the story of how JJ Okocha got into football in Europe. I think, according to what I heard, he visited his uncle in Dortmund. He visited the uncle in Dortmund, and then they were playing, and then he just really, it was like, yeah, I can also play. And they gave him the ball, and this guy was just having fun. And they really liked it, and that was how he got signed up. And I think maybe I'm not really deep into football, but I know one critic about him is that he dribbles a lot. He's playing, just playing on his own. My point being, most of us we don't think about things in a very structured way. We're just having fun, which is okay. But imagine if you put a bit of structure into it, then you will excel because they we already have it naturally in us. So just put in a little bit of structure. And now coming to this whole migration topic, and how do you go from just arriving to becoming a permanent resident or a citizen? It's just about structure. You recognize these different stages, you align yourself with people who are already at the next stage, or they've passed that stage before. You're well informed and you're prepared. It's as simple and straightforward as that.
I would like to add something. When you say permanent residence and then there's citizenship, when you say something is permanent, it's as if you are not supposed to. You are now a permanent resident. You are permanently staying. You don't have to renew your permit. You don't have to do anything. But then it feels like permanent residence here. It's like probably you go to renew your permit, and then you are given 5 years or 10 years to stay. Is that what they call permanent residence? Or permanent residence is that you are permanently staying?
Yeah, good question. So permanent residence simply means that you don't have to. So you now have the right to live in that country permanently. That's the key thing. So, um, unlike if you have a limited residence, you have to renew it every year, every 1 year, every 2 or 3 years, depending on the duration that you have. But once you have a permanent resident, then you have unlimited rights to stay in that country, at least in the case of Germany. And now, very more specifically for Germany, it's important to know that your permanent residence is always tied to your passport. So the passport where you come from. So that means the card itself may expire because your passport has an expiration date. So each time you renew your passport, you get a new card, but you're not reapplying for residence. You're just getting a new card, but you already have the permanent residence. And now that's very much different from citizenship because even though it's very close to it, but then as a permanent resident, you still have some limited rights compared to someone who's a citizen. There are certain things that you cannot do, but it's as close to citizenship as it can get. And I think it's probably the case for other locations. So it's about the legal rights to stay in that place permanently, and you cannot be a permanent resident in two countries, as far as I know. So you can't be a permanent resident in country A and country B at the same time, but you can have multiple citizenship if the countries allow it. So yeah.
Okay. So, but with permanent residence, like you said, you cannot be a permanent resident in two countries at the same time. But then you can actually have the access to the whole of the Schengen region. with that permanent resident of one of the countries, right?
Of course, definitely. That's what it means. Yeah.
But
Maybe also, yeah, go on, please.
then you can only spend at least at most 90 days in another country, right? Like I mean, another Schengen country. 90 days.
Not when you are permanent. So, yeah, that's actually a good question. And let me explain how it works. So, there are different types of permanent residence. At least in Germany, I know about two of them. There's like, let's call it the classical permanent residence, which is called Niederlassungserlaubnis. And then there's the EU permanent residence. So the first one is just permanent residence in Germany. And then the other one is EU permanent residence. So that means you have the legal rights to stay in the whole of EU permanently. And I think that other one, the EU permanent residence, so that also entitles you to other EU, gives you access to other EU locations as well. And you don't have this 90 days restriction, so to speak. However, as always, when you want to exercise it or to do certain things, then that's where maybe you will learn more about other things which are applicable. But to answer your question, there are two types, at least as far as Germany is concerned, and I would imagine it's probably the case for other EU countries. You have the classical permanent residence just for the country that you are, Germany, Italy, or wherever, and then you have the EU permanent residence. And how it works mostly is that if you transition into permanent residence, let's just use PR. If you transition from a normal residence to PR via blue card, then you mostly get the EU PR because the blue card is EU residence, right? It allows you to work and live in all the EU countries without having to seek for work permits. And in that case, the whole 90 days, whatever, does not apply to you anymore, right? Because the whole 90 days stuff simply means, yes, you can stay there, you can do whatever, but for a limitation of 90 days. After that, you have to go back. But with blue card, then this is already scrapped out of it. And if you transition to PR with a blue card, then you get an EU PR. Does this make any sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But if we're going to talk about permanent residence, I think it's a whole full topic we can actually
Yeah, yeah.
talk about a whole show because for me now, you know that there's a language restriction as well. You need to know the language to some level for you to have a permanent residency. So it's a requirement. I think
Yeah.
if you want to go into permanent residency, it's going to take like the whole of the show. So maybe we can continue, and then our audience, maybe when we have a topic like this, our audience can learn from
Definitely.
that. I would like us to just talk about permanent residence today.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Sir. That makes a lot of sense. Well, because I think we should have a day where we set aside these cards, the EU cards, the permanent residency, the permits, and all of that. I think it will make a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because you need a like some years of stay before you can even assess the permanent residency. So these are a requirement, but it's not a day for permanent residency discussion, right?
Yeah, for sure. But we can understand how this also fits into the core phases of migration, which we have been talking about, the access, the arrival, the adaptation, and then the asset. I would like us to talk now a bit about the last two stages, the adaptation and the asset, because these are really important stages. And I want everyone who is watching or listening to this to really think about it. Again, you can ignore everything and just want to move and then figure things out. No issues. But trust me, if you would have the patience and say the diligence to plan and just have a little bit of structure, then you will really have a different experience. So these last two stages, the adaptation and asset, these are really important stages. Of course, not more important than the initial stages because you have to go through those first before the other last two. At the adaptation stage, that's really where you begin to transition. That's where the integration comes in. That's where the real settling down comes in. And that's where you begin to really build your footholds, establish yourself. And here, what I really want to encourage people is go out, go out, go out, go out. A lot of Africans or other foreigners who are living abroad, especially in Germany, they tend to just stay with their own people. Now, the problem with that is you're not adapting to that new location where you are. You're not immersing yourself in the culture. You're not And when I mean culture here, I'm not just talking about cultures like Christmas, Easter, whatever celebrations. No, I'm also talking about the work culture, the professional culture, the startup culture, everything that you're genuinely interested in doing. You have to go out there and mingle and mix and learn. Just yesterday, I was having a session um, with my business partner, and we're talking about this very thing. There are different ways that you can begin to adapt to the culture. And the key thing is going out, mixing with the people. We already talked about language. Sometimes people complain that they can't get a job, they don't have access to this and that. But trust me, one door opener to getting job is volunteering, you know, engaging in social activities, networking. These are the core part of this adaptation stage, because in adaptation, you're learning about the other people and how you can really be fully integrated into the system. And this is also what's going to open the door for you to begin to build assets. And keep in mind, there are different types of assets here. Asset is also like capital. There's the social capital which you build. There's also like the one which is like literally cash or capital for you. There's the networking aspect. So all these things, they are nicely connected, and you need to be fully adapted before you can start building assets. And this is one part that people miss out. They think it's going to happen in their bedroom, but trust me, it will not happen. And it begins already from the start. And that's why we're doing this podcast every weekend, to inform you, to prep you, and most importantly, that you start networking. So we
Yeah,
have James from Uganda. Yeah, go on, please. Go ahead.
I would like to add something. When we say adaptation, people feel like you begin to. It's not really going out as far. You can even start from your own community. Just like Mike said, it's not going to happen inside your room. But then you see within your environment, you go out, you open the door, you can see people, you try to eat the food. It's not tasting like what you eat before. And then you try to say, no, I don't like this. No, that's the adaptation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When I first came, I was taken to one of my friends and I told him that, oh, come on, I've missed Nigerian food. I don't like the kind of food they serve us in the Mensa, I mean, the restaurant here. Here it's pizza, pizza, pizza. That's their tradition. They like pizza a lot. You know, if you eat that pizza, how do you adapt? You can't even eat. So that's like, it's not really, it starts from where you are exactly. Like you have to be open-minded to eat, to speak the language. You don't say it's too difficult, I can't speak the language. Just like we said earlier, that the permanent residency, you need the language. You need a level of the language to assess permanent residency. So it is that your small area where you are, you try to, adapt, speak to people, learn new things about the people, because some of these things are even the same when you go to another region.
Of
The same
course.
here is the same thing I'm going to meet in that region. So
Yeah.
it's like you're already adapting from here. And when you get to the next region, you see the same thing, you see likely things, and then you are adapting easily now. So be
Mm-hmm.
open-minded from your first place where of arrival. I mean, maybe where you are spending your first 6 months, your first 1 year. You have to eat food there, understand the tradition. There are times like in my area now, the days of Saint Vincent. There are some saints they celebrate here a lot. Sometimes there's even public holiday
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
like even the day of Assumption on the 15th of August. Nothing happening. They call that the Ferragosto in Italy. Nothing is happening. If you are dying that day, no doctor is coming for you.
Crazy.
I'm telling, it happens like so. There's an argument on it online. Like the presenter was asking someone from Italy, why is it that on August 15th nothing happens? Even if you're dying, you go to the hospital, you don't see a doctor. Nothing is happening that day. So these are the things you learn.
Yeah.
It's happening in your own area. The same thing happening in a far region as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
this is that it helps you to adapt. You know the system. What works here works in the next region as well. So if you're adapting here, it's not like you start looking for job here in the southern part. People feel like the southern part is not so fine. There are things. There are no a lot of industries here. No, you start from the small one that you know that you can assess, And then
Yeah.
before you start on the big one, there are people even in back home. They tell you they don't want to come to. They want to go to Rome. They want to go to in Milan. They want to. They just name big cities. But look at
Mm-hmm.
where you're coming from. You're coming from Nigeria or you're coming from Africa, and now you are targeting the biggest city in the
Yeah.
new place. You don't want to
Yeah.
start small. Then you even complain of I don't want to go to countries where they don't speak English because I want to start immediately. No, brother, you don't start immediately. You start small. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
these are where you start from. You don't
Mm-hmm.
just go to Canada and then because they speak the language, the language you like, and then you feel the adaptation will just happen automatically. No. So these are
Yeah.
things that people do, and I think it's a mistake. You have whatever you are trying to do, be open minded, start as small as possible, and then grow in it. The
Yeah.
problem is when you grow in it, you
Mm-hmm.
just
100%.
space and then you try to pretend that things are fine. But no, you grow gradually in it. You try to learn more. You try to be exposed to more things. And like I said, the same thing happening in this region is happening in the other region. So it's not like you're going to learn here and then learn new things in the next place again. That they speak here is the same that they speak in the next region.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This one understand that one is the same. They speak one language.
Mm-hmm.
That's to what Mike said earlier.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's go over to Nigeria. So, Michael, what is happening in Nigeria? What new things should people know from this conversation, which uh, we've just had now?
About, like Rolex was trying to say something about
We
the
can't hear
benefit.
you so well, Michael. You're sounding very faint.
You can hear me?
Now we can. Now it's better.
Okay, now it doesn't really matter where you are. This thing is useful to you if you're in Nigeria, whether you're in Nigeria or you're already in Europe. It is useful to you. I just tell a very quick story. I was in a street yesterday where I am in Kaduna State, and I was asking the people I was looking for so street, and all the people I met, 90% of them they say they don't know the street, and I was on the street they are living in. They don't know the name of the street, you know, and then I was embarrassed. So
Oh
it's
my
not just
God.
about whether you travel abroad or not, but even some people. So you keep saying there are no opportunities. You're not aware of your environment. So
Mm-hmm.
and if you don't mingle, a lot of things can just
Yeah.
bypass you without you knowing. So whether you're living abroad in Europe or you're in Nigeria, be aware of your environment. Be aware of where you are. Don't just be all about yourself. I mean, just reach out,
Yeah. Yeah.
mingle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Mm.
Great. So, guys, we usually keep our podcast to around 30 minutes. We started a bit late today, but I hope this already gave you some ideas of the different phases of migration. And very importantly, if you are watching or joining us for the first time from YouTube, Facebook, or wherever, be sure to check out the platform that we are building. And we're building this platform for you to enable you have a better structure when it comes to migration. The Android app of Settling is out already. You can scan this QR code to go to Settling, or you just go to your Play Store, type Settling, you will find the Android app. The iOS app is going to be out in a couple of weeks. So you can use the Android app or you can use the web version. Ask your questions, whatever questions that you have. I heard they say there are no stupid questions, but only stupid answers. So you could never get wrong by asking questions. Have a bit of structure. Understand that migration is not simple relocation. And we are recommending don't just move and then start figuring things out. That's what most people do by default. But you already have a lot of strength and advantages just by default. And if you would put a bit of structure to it, if you will understand that, hey, for me to move from where I am to another location, there are different stages, then you prepare a little bit and things will be much better for you. So, thank you so much to my co-host from Nigeria, and then our special guest who's always joining us from Italy. We come here every Saturday at 7 a.m. West African time, and we touch on different core topics around migration. And our goal is simple: migration should be something sustainable wherever you are, and it should also be accessible to everyone. And that's really what we're all about here. And it doesn't matter what stage you are, you're planning it, you just arrived, you're settling in, or you're already building assets. There's always something relevant for you. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment wherever you're watching or listening to this from. You can be sure that we'll get back to you. Any final words from you guys before we wrap it up this morning?
Yes, I just want to say congratulations, Mike. You're doing a great job. I'm so excited to learn that Settling is now on Play Store. It's a great fit, I must say. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah,
Roland.
same. Congratulations. I'm learning for the first time that Settling is now on the Play Store, and then everyone can easily download. Like these are easy steps. I didn't have this opportunity to download an app, see information, ask questions before I moved. It was just asking people, ask people, hey, how is this go? How is this done? How is this done? I try to ask directly, but now I think there is an access for someone to just put the question out there and you get multiple answers. And when you have multiple answers, you have to, scrutinize the answers and then pick the best and then use it. So this is a really, really big plus for those who are in Europe and those who are also in Nigeria trying to find their way out, or I mean in Africa trying to find their way out. This is the best place to have all the information that you need. And of course, with this podcast, every weekend you are rest assured of asking your questions and then taking all the necessary answers to find your way. So I'm really happy to learn about this app, and then I'm sure I will download the app too because I need to find a way to adapt right now, and also to build asset. This is the stage where I'm right now, and I really, really
There's
need
no time to take time for you, Rolex.
to take time. I have some needs right now. So that's the way it is. I will need to download the app now and then find my way about adaptation and building asset. I think building asset sounds really big. We didn't touch it a lot in this show today.
Yeah,
So
true.
maybe I think because it's a larger, I mean, a larger core of the four phases. So we need
Mm.
to define some time and talk about building asset because for me, I'm speaking for myself. This is the next stage that I'm supposed to, try to be approaching,
Yep.
find a way how to do these things right now. So it's really important for me if we can find a day to talk about building assets in Europe and in every other,
Yep.
abroad countries. So
Yep.
it's
Yep.
an important one for me, please.
Mm. I mean, we don't even have to think so much. It's going to be the next topic next week, exactly. So if you're listening to this, just already know that next week we'll be talking about how you can build assets in Europe. And again, doesn't matter what stage you are, it's always going to be relevant. But for sure, for people who are already living here in Europe, who are settled, they are adapting. The next stage is how you can build assets. It's definitely what we can talk about next week. So everybody watching this, be sure to join us next week, 7 a.m. West African time. Convert it to your time zone, and follow us across our different media handles, and definitely watch out for the link for the show. So thank you guys once more. We're getting to summer. The sun is shining. Everyone is happy in Europe. So I have to go out there and mingle.
Exactly. I had to close my window because the sun is too much now.
All right. Okay, thanks, guys. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Cheers.
Yeah.